Today's letter is lost my job and I have $4,100 in mortgage payments. Tamales. Dear Fi
A
Guys.
month.
Yeah.
A month.
Oof. Here we go. Here we go. Lock in, boys. All right. Dear Fi Guys, I wanted to share a recent development in my life and I seek your advice as I navigate through them. All righty. Recently, I've been informed that I've been laid off my tech job. Sorry to hear about that. It was a role I very much enjoyed and relied on for providing a salary of $150,000 a year. Very nice. That's a great salary. Depending on where you live, that's a great salary. But generally,
That's good salary pretty much anywhere you live. I mean,
think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the news comes with a significant financial implications, and I want to be proactive about managing my situation. Last July, I made the decision to purchase a house. Cool. And my monthly mortgage is $3,600 with the addition of a $500 payment to HOA every month, which covers sewer, water, but not electricity. I've never heard of HOA covering the water and the sewer. That's kind of cool. 500 is also a lot of freaking money. This brings my total monthly cost to about $4,100. Fortunately, I did make a wise decision and I picked up a roommate last August who contributes $1,400 a month.
Ooh, house hacking.
House hacking, let's go, baby. Effectively lowering my payment to $2,700. That's freaking sizable. Let's go. While I continue to receive my salary until August, I have about 2.5 months of severance pay at my base.
Lucky.
Right? At my base rate. I am aware that my job market for the role as a materials process engineer is currently slow. It takes people in my field roughly 5 to 6 months longer to secure a new job. Additionally, I anticipate that I may not be able to command as high a salary as I did in the tech industry. Understandable. To prepare for this transition, I want to go ahead and figure out my finances and save as much as possible as quickly as possible. I have approximately $150,000 in stocks. Very nice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Sweet. But my intention is not to touch that and only use it as a last resort. Currently, I have about $40,000 in the bank, which provides me with some cushion, but I recognize the importance of being prudent with my spending. In the past year, I haven't been the best at spending. I haven't been the best. That's a good thing to have. Don't be that good at spending. It'd be, or I guess that would be, maybe that's the opposite. Never mind. In the past year, I haven't been the best at saving due to the expenses related to therapy and courses. As I'm working on transitioning to another industry on the side, this investment in my personal growth and career development was necessary, but has left me in a position where I need to be very strategic about my finances now.
Well, before we go on, that's interesting that they were looking to maybe move it to a different course. Maybe the person could look at this as like kind of a forced jumping off point to start whatever that new thing is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this really could be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my major concerns is determining at what point I might need to consider selling my property and if my job search extends longer than anticipated. Okay. I want to ensure that I'm making informed decisions and not waiting too long to act. Yeah, that's true. I wonder what if I'm trying to think of different ideas. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
I would greatly appreciate any advice or insights on this topic for managing my finances during this period, particularly when it comes to strategic savings and making tough decisions about assets like my home. If you've been through something similar or know of resources that could help me, I would love to hear them. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and any support you can offer would be greatly appreciated. I'm hopeful that with careful planning and support of my community, I can navigate this challenging period and come out stronger on the other side. From lost my tech job, with mortgages high and low income and income low. I'm feeling blue, but with your help, I'll see it through. Okay. 40,000 in the bank.
That's I mean, so this guy's clearly, he's someone who has been a pretty diligent saver. I know he said in the last year or so he hasn't been super diligent because he's been paying for courses and therapy, which if you're going to be paying for anything and it's self-improvement like therapy and self-improvement in courses, I'm all for it. Like,
definitely.
Yeah, I'm all for it in self-improvement. So go ahead and do that. That's going to return a lot. But I think he's really concerned over something that is pretty common for most people. So this is the beauty of financial independence. Your worst case scenario is everybody else's every day. So by having $150,000 in stocks, and I don't know if that's in qualified or non-qualified stocks, and a $40,000 savings, his concern, where most people would be like, I just lost my job and now I'm done, like right now, he gets to drag that out for who knows how long. Plus he has 2.5 months of severance pay that we were not even like talking about. So he said that it's going to take him 5 to 6 months on average longer than it takes the normal person to get a job. I don't know how long it takes the normal person to get a job, 3 months, maybe 4 months, and it's going to take him 5 to 6 months. But let's say he gets 2.5 months of normal pay already. So he's already good there. Doesn't have to worry about that. So that takes him out to whenever that takes him out to, August, I think. And then after that, he has $40,000 and he's only trying to make 5 to 6 months before he gets another job. I'm really not seeing a concern here of having to like sell the house. So I think he's kind of catastrophizing as to like, when am I going to need to sell the house? Because I think we're like really putting the cart before the horse. Like, I need to sell the house. We're already in this bad spot. It's like, you have $40,000 in your emergency fund. Losing your job constitutes the emergency to use the emergency fund.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's good to have that he has 150 in stocks. I know he doesn't want to touch it, but
no, I get it. I definitely get it. But I think, like I mentioned it earlier, but he said that he has been looking at starting some new side thing that he's spending all of his money on courses for. This could definitely be a chance for him to be able to maybe start a new business or start something like that. Sometimes out of our greatest tragedies comes our greatest successes. So, you lost a job that you liked and was good for you, but can we now use this as a jumping off point? You have 2.5 months of severance pay. Or you don't have to work at all. Can you put 2.5 months as this jumping off point to start whatever that side hustle was or whatever that thing that you were trying to do was? Even if it isn't, it's your own thing. Even if it's finding a new job entirely or transitioning to another thing entirely, can you do that?
Yeah, that's the leap. That's the leap of faith I think he has to take. Now that he has all this time to, try to do more. I don't know what these courses are, but I totally agree with you. 100% bullish on self-improvement. 100% bullish on turning tragedy to triumph, no matter how difficult it is.
Yeah, and like obviously we don't know what his expenses are in general. Like all we know is his mortgage is $4,100, and thank goodness that you did take on that tenant, and hopefully they don't leave because that's going to really help you out. But given that they do stay, you have 2.5 months of severance, $40,000, and then you have 120 or 150, I can't remember, in stocks.
Yep.
You probably have like a year to a year and a half, given that your expenses aren't anything crazy, of runway there. Like that's more than enough time to figure it out. I understand we don't want to dip into the stocks. I understand we don't want to dip into the emergency fund, but that's the reason that we have those things, is to take care of us when we falter. And this really, I think you're going to look back on this and be like, this is the moment where everything came together. But I think we should talk a little bit that $4,100 in mortgage payment on $150,000 salary, that's pretty darn high. So it's really good that at the beginning that you did take on that tenant in order to help you out. But it's an unfortunate situation in that's normal. Like a mortgage at $4,100, unfortunately, is just normal now. And not everyone has a $400,000 income in order to make up for that. So it just kind of shows like how bad of a situation like millennials and Gen Z find themselves in, where the housing market is just so unbelievably unaffordable that someone who's making an individual making $150,000, which is a very solid income, is having to put so much of it towards just being able to secure a house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like it's definitely not great.
Yeah, because what's 41,000 times? That's almost 50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Third of his income.
A third of his income is going just to his mortgage, which isn't that bad, and that's that's a third of his income before taxes, before everything else. Mm-hmm. So, I think only like the top 10% of income brackets can really afford to buy houses right now, and like not over leverage themselves in order to purchase the home. It's just a very difficult situation that we all kind of find ourselves in.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I was this guy's financial advisor, the first thing I would say is we need to make sure that we create a detailed budget, because I know that you're worried about going out and spending too much. So we know that your cost is pretty much fixed at the $4,100 for the mortgage and for the HOA. You really can't negotiate on that very much. So things we could do is, how can we make sure that going out and partying, food, all those things, can we make sure that we keep all the discretionary spending to a minimum during this time where we're in this transition? And this transition could either be finding a new job in the tech industry, or in your current salary, in your current role, finding a new job in that second type of business that you were trying to get into, or starting your own company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing I'm thinking is, if you have a house that you're paying $4,100 for, you have one roommate. My guess is it probably has another room. Could you bring in another roommate and lower your mortgage even more? Would that be possible? Could that be something you could do?
That's a good idea. It's a good idea. Anything to get that expenses down.
Yeah, we could try to maximize our income streams, right? Could we try to explore like maybe some freelance opportunities, do some consulting on the side during these 2.5 months while we're looking for other jobs? The house hacking, bringing another person would be super easy to do, I would think. There's always people looking for people to work for. So
people to live with.
Yeah, for people to live with. But I think during this transition time while you're looking for jobs, because while applying for jobs is very difficult, it's not a full-time job. You're not going to be sitting there 8 hours a day just applying. I don't think you would be. So is there anything you can do for like temporary gig work on the side to really minimize the loss of income that you're going to have, and just start saving more money during this time where you're still getting that severance? Because that severance that's huge. Most people don't get that. They usually just get a deuces, and good luck on your way out. Don't get hit on the door.
It's so true. Yeah, that severance package is nice. That's really respectable.
Yeah.
I wish you go for it.
Yeah, I would say that you also need to make sure that you're going to use your emergency fund wisely, because you said you don't want to dip into those stocks, which I would agree. Let's try to avoid that if we can. But if we need to, know that is there. But for the emergency fund, you have $40,000. Let's make sure that we are spending that $40,000 wisely by making sure that we're sticking to our budget as best we can. This is not the time when we lose our job to be going on vacations, going to Mexico, going and doing any of these trips. This is the time to really buckle down, to kind of go very bologna and bread as we can, within reason, of course. Like don't cut down to like, I'm not going to eat for the next week in order to save money. That's obviously not a good decision. But what can we do to cut expenses as best we can and still live a good life? Because that's very, very important to make sure that we have that balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you say to this person, Dominic?
I do like step one: get a budget in place, cut costs in every area. Pound the pavement.
My guess is he already has a budget in place. Like if he saved that much money in emergency fund and in stocks, he probably already knows what his budget is. So I would look at every line item and be like, is this actually a necessary expense? And if it isn't, if it's not a necessary expense, if it's just like, this is something that I do because I had the extra income, I would cut it for right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, and I would pound the pavement and start looking for a job as much as you can, and in the free time, explore the other side hustle career option that he was looking at. But I like the idea, as well as I would assume that he doesn't have any more room for another roommate.
Okay.
Because if so, he would have gotten one, or maybe there's an extra room when he is as his office or whatever. But dude, if you can house hack your almost like full mortgage payment, dude, game over. That's sweet. That's freaking sweet. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a scary place to be, but I think he's making it scarier than he actually is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, right now he's asking like, at what point do I need to consider selling the house? Like, we're very far away from that. You have, before you're like considering selling the house and all these things at a loss, especially. I would say like look into the stocks. You have at least a year and a half of money in your pocket before getting a job.
I do the math here. Yeah, just on the 50,000 alone, like if that was just his only expenses, like 19 months.
Yeah,
and he still has the severance pay, and he sells the stocks. So
yeah, so I mean that was just me guesstimating. I said 18 months guesstimating. So yeah, 19. I mean even better.
Yeah.
So he's got a very long runway, and I know it seems scary because he's the one in the situation, right?
Yeah,
it's easy for us to say like, oh, just do this. It's so easy. Like you're totally fine. Like you have $40,000 and $120,000 in stocks. You have $160,000 of money you can go ahead and invest. Cool, go and do it. I guess one thing I would say for the stocks is if you are concerned that it's going to take you a really long time to work, maybe if you're like fully invested in the S&P 500 or like all that is aggressive, take some of the risk off the table with some of that money. I wouldn't say take it out of the market entirely, but maybe like go more to bonds for a little while, just in case you do have to dip into that stockpile. Hopefully, again, you don't. But
what if he invested in dividend stocks instead?
you can do that too. The only thing is, whenever you invest in a stock, even if it's a dividend, it's still an equity and it could still lower in case of a market downturn.
Yeah.
And you may have to still sell the stock in order to come up with cash.
True. Yeah.
So, just deleverage the investment portfolio. And that's something that you can talk to an advisor, or maybe you can do some research, figure out what's going to be best for figuring that out for yourself. But that's certainly something you can do, is start to deleverage that, because the worst case scenario is you have 120,000 and now we move into a recession where we have a 30, 40, 50% correction. And now your $120,000 stock portfolio goes down to $60,000. And we're out of job for even longer because the economy is in the tank because the stock market is down. And remember that the economy and the stock market are two very different things.
Yep. Yeah.
They are correlated, but they are not causational. They are unrelated to one another.
Bingo.
So that's something to think about too. If you're having trouble finding a job, you have a lot of time here. And it sounds like you also have time to pivot. And my recommendation, my personal recommendation would be look for a job inside that new industry that you were trying to learn about. This really could be the catalyst for the thing that's going to start you into the next career, our next chapter of your life. Because even if it sounds like you liked your job, there was a reason you were looking at other things on the side. Maybe it's a job that you want to run yourself and be your own boss, or maybe it's just a completely different industry that you're more passionate about. This could be a very good starting point to figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I hope that helps. Best of luck from Arizona.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor. It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.